Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for another what? Thank you for watching another episode of your most important podcast of your life. Four quarter reconnaissance. I am K Marvel.
I'm QS.
All right, Mr. Stretch.
Striker Dragoon, baby.
So, on today's episode, this is episode number 5, and we have been wanting to do this episode since before the podcast was even official. But today's episode is called Gimmicks are Welcome, and it's exactly what it sounds like. We will be talking about two of the gimmicks that have impacted us, or gimmicks that we do love. And it's not necessarily just favorites, it's just gimmicks that we love. And then the other two is going to talk about gimmicks that not so much. So once again, two members will be talking about gimmicks, some of the gimmicks that we enjoy watching throughout the years. The other two will be talking about the opposite. On today's episode, I'm going to start it off, and I have mentioned this man over and over and over and over and over and over, but I figured this would be the perfect time to talk about it and that is my guy Bray Wyatt. Uh, so starting off with NXT, before that we knew he was part of the Nexus, Husky Harris. We saw him. He wasn't as loved at that time, I must say. But as he became and as he created this new character Bray Wyatt, starting on NXT. For me personally, the moment I saw it, I was hooked. Um, the way he changed his speech patterns, the things that he spoke about. It wasn't like, and if y'all get offended for this, it's not to be offensive. It's just how I feel. It's not necessarily like the Ultimate Warrior where he was just what's that word I'm looking for? Saying gibberish. Um, but but Bray had this deeper um way of speaking and this deeper uh the tone of what he was speaking about, down with the machine and not conforming and things like that. It was instant for me. Between look, Stretch got a family member love.
That would be my niece, ladies and gentlemen.
The families are well. Um, but so like I said, from the jump, Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family, starting with Luke Harper, who is now Brody Lee in AEW, and then eventually Eric Rowan, excuse me. Um, so, but some of my fondest memories and of his Eater of Worlds character, because he has evolved throughout the years. When he first came up to Raw, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was still Raw and SmackDown. They were doing everything together. But him and John Cena,
Correct.
the feud he had with Cena was incredible. One of the most memorable moments of that particular feud was when Cena was in the ring, lights go out, and then you had all the children around the ring with the sheep's masks on, and that was like the coolest and creepiest moments to me, when it comes to Bray Wyatt, well, especially during that era, of Bray Wyatt. But the more it seemed like, the more he was, okay with speaking, and the more I would like to think that the more that the WWE, uh, the behind the scenes was okay with him speaking, the more he just had you hooked and hooked and hooked. And you can tell, between his entrance coming out, I mean, the entrance was perfect for his character, and the crowd with everybody loving him so much, they had the Fireflies, and then the Fireflies became part of it. And of course, he got the whole world in his hands. Um, that was also something that just, not only was it creepy, but it just worked. It worked so well that you couldn't help but fall into that character. Um,
That started out as a phrase on the back of Luke Harper's jacket for WrestleMania, and it grew into like this central part of his character. Like he's got the whole world in his hands, and it was great.
and and all the vignettes and even just the fact that at the end of everything, all he said was run, and that was the truth. You better run because he is going to mess you up. Um, so when it comes to that, and like I said, he won the WWE title as that character in Elimination Chamber. Um, and even though it was just a month run, which people agree, people don't agree with, me personally, I would have loved to see him hold it for longer than that. I also, hope that it wouldn't have been the match that it turned out to be. There was a lot of hate when it comes to that WrestleMania match with Randy Orton. Um, and and I'm not even 100% sure if they enjoyed it. I don't know. I'm not them. I can't speak for them. But from then on, he went from the Eater of Worlds to the to excuse me, tag teaming with I mean, granted, there's been a lot of ups and downs. Excuse me. I just wanted to touch on this also. Um, the feud with the Shield, incredible. The feud with New Day, incredible. There was there was there was just so many different aspects of Bray Wyatt, Eater of Worlds, and the Wyatt family, and the people that they feuded with, that did elevate not only the Wyatt family, but the people that they worked with. It showed a different side, like when they feuded with the New Day, and Kofi and E was like, "Let's do this," and Xavier was like, "I'm not effing with him." Um, that that fear aspect is truly what uh what that Bray Wyatt character was meant to bring out.
Hmm.
But once again, it went from the Eater of Worlds to the Leader of Worlds when he teamed with Matt Hardy, which was one of excuse me, one of also the most interesting things, because it wasn't as much as a shift, but there was still a shift. Um, they were even tag team champions. There was a lot that went on, and then he went away for a little bit. And personal life is personal life. I don't know. I can't get into it. None of my business anyway. But once he came back, that's when everything started all over again, and he just now he has this whole he had that whole like Mr. Rogers style esque promos with the Firefly Funhouse, and everybody, I even myself, I was like, what is happening, like what is going on? And then once you saw the first glimpse of the Fiend, you knew something was coming, and it was going to rip through the WWE. And until Goldberg, that's exactly what happened. Every
Oldberg.
but
He doesn't get the G anymore, folks. He's Oldberg. That ship has sailed a long time ago.
long time ago. He love you long time? No, 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 no. He old long time. Um, but but he did, and every time he faced someone, he changed them. They changed, and I don't know if that was necessarily on purpose at first, but him attacking the legends, and then him fighting Finn Balor. He him Finn Balor, Seth Rollins. Uh, I'm blanking out. Oh my God, that's horrible.
Jerry Lawler.
Yup, Mick Foley. Um,
Kane.
uh, Kane. Yup, absolutely. So there was. Oh, and and sorry to backtrack, but even the feud between Bray Wyatt and Kane when he was Eater of Worlds, that was incredible too.
Yep.
And so if you haven't watched that, please do, because once again, this
Remember
is
he
all about the growth of each character. Go ahead.
Also remember Kurt Angle and John Cena. I don't know if you're about to get to the
Yeah,
John Cena portion.
yeah, I was. Um, see, we're a team, folks. Um, but yes, so and then WrestleMania, he had the Firefly Funhouse match, excuse me, with Cena. Um, I'm skipping ahead. He he fought Seth Rollins, won the Universal title. That moment in itself, like even I think one of the most, if not the most memorable moment of that match was was when Rollins thought it was all good and safe, and the Fiend just pops up behind him and then puts him in a mandible claw. Love that he has that move, by the way, and wins the Universal title. And I knew it was happening because I mean, why wouldn't it? But it was still a shock to so many people because I don't think a lot of people expected him to win the Universal title. And I must say, thank you for making it blue. Um, so, once again, and then the match with Goldberg happened, and then the Firefly Funhouse match, and now he's going through this feud with Braun Strowman, which is just bringing out this whole this whole other
He's got
side of
the
Strowman.
he's got the three faces of Foley thing going on too, which I think is
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
cool.
And
The fact
that
that
was the other.
he switched back to the cult leader like Bray Wyatt character. He does promos as like the child show host, like the game show host Bray Wyatt, not game show host, but child show host, like the Mr. Rogers esque Bray Wyatt, and then he pops up out of the water as the Fiend, which is a callback to like Friday the 13th, which was awesome to me. Like I'm a horror movie buff, so I always find stuff like that super fascinating. So.
Amazing. And like I said, I think Bray Wyatt, the evolution of Bray Wyatt is probably one of the most interesting, fascinating, and and to be honest, when it comes to if I would like to think if he was aspiring to be a wrestler with a full-blown character, he has to be one of the most influential people to follow, um, just to show what a character that you can come up with can truly do and become. And yeah, that's my pick. I mean, Bray Wyatt, he's been one of my favorites since he debuted the character. Um, and I mean, I don't really think there's enough positive things that I can say about Bray Wyatt and his growth, and I am so excited to see what else comes from it because there is nothing but new people coming up, and to see the interaction he will have is is going to be truly incredible. Stretch, we're going to negative side now. Sorry.
So a bad gimmick. God, there are so many. So many bad gimmicks. But the first bad gimmick that I could really think of that comes to mind is from WCW. And like I said in previous episodes, first episode actually, I've been watching wrestling for um, basically my entire life, includes my relatively young and impressionable childhood. So I'm not going to come out and say the gimmick right away. I'm just going to preface by saying this. A big moment for me as a kid was in 1994 when Hulk Hogan jumped ship to WCW. That gave WCW, even though they were a pretty legit company, with the stars that they had. They had Vader, they had Flair, they had Sting, Arn Anderson. They had star power there and they had talent there. But Hulk Hogan is at that time, was on an astronomical level as far as like marketability and visibility is concerned. Like Hulk Hogan at the time is like Michael Jordan. Like you don't have to watch wrestling to know that Hulk Hogan was a professional wrestler. With that said, he comes into WCW, immediately wins the world title at Bash at the Beach '94 from Flair, which is a pretty good match. Guy had a year layoff and had a pretty damn good match with Flair. Not taking that away from him, but he ran roughshod through WCW in his time there when he initially won the World Heavyweight Championship. So there was nobody really for Hogan to beat. He beat Flair numerous times. He beat Vader. He even had one of the worst matches in Starrcade history with Brutus Beefcake, the Butcher, in 1994. It is an absolute terrible main event for Starrcade, which was like the flagship event of WCW. Um, but I will say this, he ran roughshod through WCW at the time period. So they had to create challengers for Hulk Hogan. The bad gimmick that I'm going to talk about, enter Kevin Sullivan's Dungeon of Doom, which is like the bad gimmick roulette. It is a stable, in case anybody doesn't remember, formed in 1995, which had Kevin Sullivan. The interesting premise was this: Kevin Sullivan, who was a part of the Three Faces affair, which was Avalanche, aka the Earthquake, John Tenta, God rest his soul, and Brutus Beefcake, also, and Kevin Sullivan comprised the Three Faces of Fear. Kevin Sullivan, after beating Brutus Beefcake, who was known as the Butcher, who for their match during Slamboree 95 was known as, and I quote, the man with no name, because they beat him so badly he could not remember his own name. So they beat him to amnesia, but couldn't remember his name, but he does know he's that man right there. So I always thought that was funny. So he beats him in Slamboree 95. He hears this mysterious voice call out to him. So this mysterious voice is over the loudspeaker talking to Kevin Sullivan. It is King Curtis Iwakia, who was the former manager, former wrestler, in the territory days, former manager in the WWF at one point. He was known as the master of the Dungeon of Doom, and he's calling out to Kevin Sullivan, "Sullivan, my son!" And they show these vignettes of Sullivan running through this forest, and it's like, the master's calling out to him, and in a flash of light, Kevin Sullivan is instantly transported to the Dungeon of Doom, and he's looking around, and then you see the master sitting in this chair. The master is supposedly so ancient and so old. He's like covered in cobwebs, and they have this makeup on him that makes it look like a bowl of grits exploded in the guy's face. It's terrible, but it is so entertaining to watch now as an adult. I can't help but to laugh because it's so terrible. But long story short, the members of the Dungeon of Doom are all introduced one by one each and every week. We have the Zodiac, who is Brutus Beefcake under another gimmick, who has this zebra face paint, and he has his old zebra tights on that barely cover anything, and he's all he can say is yes and no. He doesn't say anything else but yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, and he switches it up no, yes, no. I'm it's absolutely mind blowing. You have Kamala, the Ugandan giant, who's the headhunter. Then you have the abomination of what they did to John Tenta, who is a legitimate athlete, believe it or not. It was a beloved character as Earthquake in the WWF. They called him the Shark and put him in this outfit, which, had the shark logo on the top of the singlet and painted shark teeth in his beard. Yeah, it's horrible. It really is some bad stuff. Plus, you also have Ming, who is free from, being managed by Colonel Rob Parker at the time, and I dare not say anything bad about Ming in case he's hearing this. Yes, but long story short, this was a stable created that guys, Hogan trusted, so they can get Hogan some steam. From what I remember reading, was this group was designed by Kevin Sullivan to gain Hogan's trust. It's I'm going to give you guys that we can put over you that are going to have gimmicks so terrible that the crowd will have no choice but to boo them. But this really was what makes the Dungeon of Doom so significant. This was the genesis of the Big Show. He was the giant in WCW, and he was originally a member of the Dungeon of Doom. So he debuts in a most comical manner as well. Hogan somehow, some way, gets transported to the Dungeon of Doom. And he walks around. I encourage anybody to look this up on YouTube because it's hilarious stuff. Hogan gets transported to the Dungeon of Doom, and he looks around and he sees the little water fountain that's in the Dungeon of Doom, and he touches it and he pulls his hand back it's not hot. So Hogan evidently is the only person that could get burned by cold water, number one. Number two, Hogan turns around and sees Kevin Sullivan and the Master, and the Master.
Man, why you hate him?
It's nice to see ice in liquid form. But Hogan turns around and sees the Master and Kevin Sullivan sitting there, and the master is like, I can feel his presence. The rare white Bengal tiger is in our presence. And then Sullivan is looking at Hogan like, Hogan. Hold on, I forgot the best part. Hogan, when he gets transported to the Dungeon of Doom, he looks around. There's no Hulkamaniacs here. I've never been here before. Like, no shit. But long story short, Sullivan like takes his like staff or whatever have you, and he backs Hogan up next to this wall that has like a silhouette of this huge, huge man, and he touches the silhouette with the staff, and the giant busts through the wall, and like a cloud of smoke, and like they bust through the concrete of this wall and everything, and he grabs Hogan by the neck, and he does the same thing that Zeus and every other heel that's been bigger than Hogan does, like the whole neck choke thing, and he brings Hulkamania down to his knees with a devastating nerve hold. And Giant like does like the whole thing and like points at his hand and everything. It was his debut out of all of them was by far the coolest, but it was also goofy in its own manner. But they did a really good job of building the Giant up. But as far as the rest of the Dungeon of Doom, and I'm not even talking about the members that they added later, which they had Sergeant Dwayne Bruce, who was famous to being the trainer of the WCW Power Plant. They had him as Braun the Leprechaun at one point. Conan was actually a member of the Dungeon of Doom, and he doesn't even have a creepy gimmick. He was just a Cholo Gang member hanging out with the rest of these nuts. And
you wouldn't even say what that's called.
Yeah, right. And Big Bubba Rogers, who was a biker, who was also known as the Big Boss Man at the time. But long story short, they did a good job of building up the Giant. Jimmy Hart turns on Hogan at Halloween Havoc 95, in which I'm getting to the best member of the group. He turns on Hogan at Halloween Havoc 95. It's a big setup. Lex Luger was a part of the Dungeon of Doom under, he's Lex Luger. He didn't really have anything creepy about him. He's just really buff and, women like his body. But at Halloween Havoc 95, the master was speaking of an insurance policy on the Nitro before that in a block of ice. The master is saying, like, just in case the Giant can't beat Hulkamania, which we know he will, we will have this insurance policy waiting, and it's a big block of ice. And at the end of that Nitro, the block of ice explodes, and a mummy pops out.
Oh, yeah.
So at Halloween Havoc 95, right, at the Halloween Havoc 95, we get, Hogan's in trouble, and as Tony Schiavone is now famous for saying, the Yeti is coming down. Mind you, this is a mummy, not a Yeti. It's a mummy. He's wrapped up like, King Tut in his sarcophagus and everything, but yet he pops out of a block of ice, and they're calling this a Yeti. And he comes in, and the Giant has Hogan in a bear hug. So what does the Yeti do? He hugs himself around, the Giant while he has Hogan in a bear hug. So it's like a double bear hug. It's like the Oreo sandwich from hell. And Hogan is the sweet cream in the middle, folks. So it's like he is basically getting, violated by these two giants of human beings. It's horrible stuff. I'm telling you, it's the best. It is by far the worst faction I could ever think of off the top of my head. It is a holy grail of bad gimmicks to me.
And you know what's crazy about that? It's funny that you mentioned the Giant, because if I'm not mistaken, didn't the Giant get introduced with like a giant mask or something, like some type of?
No, that was Ming. They had Ming as the face of fear. They had like the dragon head on Ming and everything, which was ridiculous. But right. He's Ming, so.
What I was gonna say was that and he's right. The Giant was definitely the best thing to come out of that, because he won the world title.
Right, his debut match.
Yeah,
his debut match.
So, I mean, wow, that was wow.
The Dungeon of Doom is terrible. See, Brandon and Troy didn't start watching, like they mentioned, until like 96. So you guys didn't see like the crux of this horrible gimmick when it was being formulated. I'm like 6 years old. And, at the time, I admit, like most children at 6 years old, I was a diehard Hulkamaniac, not so much now, for obvious reasons. But, seeing this stuff is like, how will Hogan survive? And now when you get that's a beautiful thing about wrestling, I think. Even though you enjoy nostalgia, you can still somewhat realize the BS in it. It's like, you look back on it, it's like, this was supposed to kill Hulkamania? Like, of all the things in the world, like a guy with shark teeth painted in his freaking beard? Like,
these sharks, come on, dude.
Sharks are dangerous, not that one, but.
Wow, that's a damn good pick. That
Yeah,
was
that's
2K, sir. 2K. Uh, a striker dragoon. Sir, let's
Yes,
hear
sir.
your
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
positive gimmick.
S- So I gotta adjust my mic a little bit, but I chose this one because it's a little easier to speak from. Um, so would y'all be ready to go one on one with the great one?
How do you pick my favorite?
Well, you know what's funny? You know what's funny is the man in question was not the one who is the great one, but the one
can
who
I
fought
inter-
the but the
can I
one who
interrupt
fought
for a
the great
second?
one. Yes, sir.
It's funny you mentioned the man in question. How could I forget the also another member of the Dungeon of Doom, Hugh Morris, Bill DeMott, whose name is a play on words of
Oh,
humorous, and he could not stop laughing. But
you more.
please go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you for that.
No, no, actually, your interruption actually helps my point. So it is not the great one that I'm speaking about, but the one that actually went one on one with the great one. Now imagine we're in a time of superheroes and DC and Marvel.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I know where he's going
so
with this.
I knew it.
so
Yes.
why not talk about the greatest wrestling superhero who's ever lived? I'm talking about Mr. Hurricane Helms himself, Shane Helms.
Good choice.
Absolutely.
That's a good gimmick.
Absolutely.
Oh,
One of my favorite gimmicks, one of my favorite people of all time in the wrestling business. And I kid you not, I had to watch his stuff all over again just to get the humor back in my body, just for this
the
character.
hurricane.
The Hurricane, his debut night on Raw, I think it was either Raw or SmackDown. This man wins the European Championship from Matt Hardy. Mind you, everybody's like, who the hell is this Hurricane guy? You know, what are we getting with this superhero gimmick? Whatever. So we get that. We end up getting him in the full suit later on, and he's the Hurricane. When this man comes in on the scene, you know, you're hearing the superhero music. He's having the reporter slash superhero gimmick, and it is the most hilarious thing to see. One of his biggest feuds, if not the biggest feud, the memorable feud that he had was when he was facing Hollywood Rock. I absolutely love the interaction.
Yeah.
So,
Some of the greatest, like, just as a funny interactions probably in wrestling history.
oh
You
man,
could probably
hold on.
quote those
Let
interactions.
me get this. Let me get this
So
mic
unhealthy.
situated. But but to further that point, Hurricane was actually one of the few people, you know, like Chris Jericho, like maybe Stone Cold, who could actually rock one on one, you know, versus the Rock on a mic. I thought, you know, the little back and forth they did at their first meeting, where where Hurricane was basically calling the Rock a punk, if you will, because he didn't want to face Stone Cold. I thought it was the most hilarious thing. Then we get the Battle Royale match that we had later that night, I believe, where you know the Rock
SmackDown?
throws him over. Was it Smack? No, I think it was Raw. I think it was Raw. I don't think it was SmackDown. If it was SmackDown,
No,
then
SmackDown was
pardon
the
me.
next interaction. That's what it was.
Right, right. So we had that little, you know, we had that little battle royale, and I think it was number one contender to face Triple H, I think, for the World Heavyweight title, if I remember correctly. If not, if I'm wrong, correct me. But you know, we had that little interaction. Hurricane says that he's gonna throw the Rock over the top rope. Eventually, now, you know, we get the obviously we get the Rock going over because the Rock is, you know, the bigger star of the two. But then we get the Rock getting eliminated by Booker T to end the Royal Rumble match. Not Royal Rumble. I keep saying Royal Rumble. The Battle Royale match. I believe as Kyle was saying, it was SmackDown the next week. Was it the next week or next interaction? I should say.
The next interaction was that SmackDown.
Okay, so that SmackDown, we get The Rock having his own little monologue in his locker room, and he decides that he wants to go to, go get his stuff, and he pulls back a curtain, and it's
In the
Hurricane
car.
sitting there.
Yep.
Hurricane sitting there, and he's like, he's taken aback. He's like, what? So covers back the curtain, puts the curtain back, basically mouths like, what the hell is going on to himself, goes back now, and Hurricane jumps out the curtain. This is where we end up getting the back and forth about, The Rock's scared of Stone Cold again. He doesn't want to face Stone Cold. The Rock retorts, oh, I'm not scared of anybody. And, he was saying, oh, so how long were you back there behind the curtain? Hurricane's like, oh, I was there basically the whole time. So he's like, The Rock's, you see The Rock naked? You see The Rock naked when he was walking around? And I forgot the little in between, but
He
out
said,
of this whole interaction. But yeah, if you remember, Kyle, definitely
The
let them know.
Rock has a little wee wee.
No, he said, and I remembered that part specifically. He said that The Rock has a tiny dingling. So
Yes, yes,
he said The
yes.
Rock had a tiny dingaling, and The Rock is embarrassed. The Rock is like, he's like trying to like push the print out of his pants, and he's slapping his thigh, and the
Hold it.
crowd is laughing. The crowd is laughing to the point that The Rock is breaking a bit of kayfabe, and he's doing a bit of kayfabe thing, and he's telling the crowd to stop laughing, like he's hearing them in the locker room. So he's telling them stop laughing, and Hurricane's, just battering him with jokes and keeping on going and going and going. And the joke keeps going, like even like their next interaction, I think it kept going where The Rock's like, what did he say? He said, what did he say? I forgot what he said when he was pointing to his pants. He said, you're still a big man now, or something of that sort. So it was just funny interactions. But as a gimmick, it's hard to believe that an actual superhero character, especially in wrestling, actually stick to the character and make so much sense of it. You had him pair with
Rosie.
I think it
Molly
was
Holly.
no, we get
Oh,
well,
and
I was
Molly
getting
Holly,
to
yeah.
Molly Holly. But you had him pair with Kane, you had him pair with Molly Holly. You had them, riding around in the Huracycle, I believe.
Hmm.
You had him and Kane, who basically
Psycho.
joined off of a choke slam gimmick, because we know Hurricane's out here trying to choke slam people, and it's people twice his size, and we know that crap's not gonna work. But eventually you see him get one over.
He was
Like
getting
it
it.
got to
Yeah.
and eventually it got to a point where him and Kane were doing like instinct choke slams and winning matches and stuff like that. So I thought
Can,
just even
can
him
I
pairing
add
up with
one? Can I
go
add
ahead.
one tag team partner before you keep going?
Just
Rosie,
land Yes,
Rosie,
so I
yeah.
was gonna get
the
to Rosie.
superhero in training.
Rosie was the man.
My God,
So
Rose.
we had Rosie look
Rosie
like
was the man.
Rosie was the, I want to say mid 2000s. I want to say he was the mid
Mhm.
2000s Family Dollar version of a superhero.
Family Dollar. Wow.
So he had like the cutout bandana.
Great
He
value
had
brand superhero.
Right. So he had the cutout bandana. He had the tablecloth cape. He had a super big t-shirt and shorts. I think sometimes he wore like maybe 3/4 pants and stuff like that at some points. But
Yeah.
you know,
He had he
Hurricane.
had he had the shorts with
Mhm.
like the like leggings or the tights underneath.
Right.
You could see it go all the way down like to his ankles with the purple. Oh my God. It
So
was
So
bad.
Rosie was basically like a 30-year-old kid, you know,
He's
trying
a
on there,
30-year-old
trying to
Robin.
pretty much just trying to find whatever they could to make superhero gear, and they made a killing off of it. I think them as a tag team was actually really funny. You got Hurricane with some actual muscle behind him, aside from when he was with Kane. He had somebody with actual muscle behind him, and they made a very entertaining tag team. But throughout his career and throughout his all gimmick changes and stuff like that, I think Hurricane is Gregory Helms' Hurricane gimmick is actually his most memorable gimmick out of all of them.
Just to add on, I
Mhm.
I loved I mean, as y'all see, because we finally got this whole gallery view thing figured out. Um, I'm laughing the entire time because I distinctively, even within the last 5 years, just rewatching those promos between Hurricane and Hollywood Rock, and I will always say Hollywood Rock is one of my favorite rocks, but I love the Rock period. He's my favorite. That's a whole nother
Right.
story. Hence why I didn't pick him for this one. But even when the Rock came back, so there was still that like that love for them. First off, Hurricane pinned the Rock. I don't know if anybody remembers it.
Yes,
Yep.
he did.
Yep. It was a no
Hurricane,
DQ match.
nobody expected it. Not one solitary person. The Hurricane pinned the Rock. Um, and then, like I said, when he came back to help Eugene, I don't know if you remember Eugene,
Yep.
messing with Coach. Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah, messing with Coach, and then Eric Bischoff, when he's in charge of Raw, comes out, kicks out the Rock. Oh, he leaves. Oh, the Rock, you gonna leave with the microphone? Who you got here? Oh, where's the rest of the seven dwarves? And as he goes off, he just goes off on everybody he runs into. And Hurricane and Rosie was one of them. He was like, oh, Hurricane, what Hamburglar? What's going on? Yeah, the Hamburglar and Grimace. Like, I think I think as I agree with Troy, that those interactions, like I said earlier, those interactions were some of the funniest and just truly genuine funny. It wasn't forced. Everything was natural. Gotta.
Oh, also, I remember what they were arguing about. So The Rock did call in the first interaction, The Rock did call him Hamburglar, and he was like, "Oh, every superhero could whip your ass." So
The
he's going
Scorpion
down the
King,
list.
yes,
He's
yes.
going down the whole list. He says Superman, Batman, even Aquaman, the guy with that could speak to fishes, could beat your
Yep.
ass. And Hurricane's like, yeah, he said, okay, all those could beat my ass, but I know there's one superhero I could beat his ass. And he's like, and Rock's like, whose ass can you beat? He said, I bet I could beat the Scorpion King's ass. The Rock just went off. He was furious. So I think that genuine interaction it's still funny to this day. It is still funny to this day. Even knowing that
Definitely.
even knowing that the Scorpion King had flopped, it was hilarious that they played into that in the actual interactions.
That's horrible.
That's a good call. That's a very good call
Yeah.
with the Hurricane.
Yeah, Hurricane. Yeah, that's a
Oh,
classic that
if
I
you
think too many people.
if you love the Hurricane one, wait till I give you my second one.
All right,
Oh,
well,
we are
we're
doing two.
we're
That's
gonna
right.
we're gonna switch, and my man, Quiet Storm. Who's your negative, sir?
Well, I mean, Stretch had already started it off with a group. It only makes sense. There is actually another group in history whose gimmick is fucking terrible.
Oh my god.
I don't think.
If it's who I think it is.
If you know the names Kenny, Mikey, Johnny, Ricky,
Vicky!
you would know. Yeah, that whole line, and then you see a whole group of grown ass men in green and white as a male cheerleading squad. You already know who I'm going with. Probably one of the worst gimmicks you've ever seen.
Cheerleader?
Oh yeah, like
I mean, I wasn't one. I'm just saying.
and mind you, there's nothing wrong. Nothing really wrong with cheerleaders. I have no issue with it. I guess it's just the way. It's the way this cheerleading group was billed as. It's just like, just imagine. I think
It's on paper, it's a bad gimmick.
on paper, it's
It's a bad gimmick. It's a bad gimmick.
Like from their
I
debut.
will say this. I think they made the most of it because the Spirit Squad was a prominent part of Monday Night Raw from the time they debuted till the time they were shipped off to OVW by DX. But not to take too much time away from you, a male cheerleader gimmick. I could only imagine what were going through those kids' head when they were kids at the time. They were relatively young. I can only imagine what was going on in their minds where they were saying like, "Hey, we got this idea for you guys. We're gonna make you male cheerleaders." It's like,
Okay. Cool.
Go ahead. Yeah, dude.
And mind you, they debuted on Raw January 23rd in 2006 on an episode of Raw. They did this basically to stop Jerry Lawler from advancing, because mind you, it was a match between Jerry Lawler and Jonathan Coachman.
mm-hmm.
And even more like, to me, terrible match. It shouldn't have even never happened. Jonathan Coachman doesn't wrestle. Jerry the King Lawler, he was like semi-retired. He's like
the Royal Rumble qualifying match.
Yeah, it was a Royal Rumble qualifying match, and here these 5 guys that came and basically was that much of a distraction to help Coachman get through. And it's so crazy because then right after that, you saw with Spirit Squad. The only next time you really saw these guys in like any type of feud, it was between Shawn Michaels. They were giving Shawn Michaels hell because at the time Shawn Michaels was over here feuding with Vince McMahon. He's over here giving him shit, and here they come, and they're over here giving him hell. They're over here. They've been caught. And the thing about the Spirit Squad, shitty gimmick, horrible, annoying entrance. It's probably one of the most of the annoying entrance themes of all time to me. I think what made it even worse is that this annoyance actually helped them win tag team gold, because they actually ended up winning the gold by defeating Kane and Big Show, of all people. They even beat them.
Yeah.
Beat them.
Yep.
Beat them for the tag team titles, and they held it for 216
For
days.
some time. Yeah.
They really did. They
For
held
almost
it
a full year.
216. And and at that time, that was actually a pretty good lengthy and long reign for a tag team title. So it's like it's almost just like, wow, this is crazy. Like they've really been this horrible gimmick was getting off for this long. And then they even went to, of course, they started feud. They went into a whole feud with DX. It was with DX and the McMahons. And the thing is, even when they had the title, McMahon's even went and put in an edict. Vince put that whole edict about under the Freebird rule. They got the Freebird rule. Like any one of them could be considered champions. Any of them.
Any 5.
So it's just like, wow.
5 people.
I mean, but of course, there was a lot of funny moments, of course, because of the whole banter with DX. DX was actually helped make the feud a little bit more enjoyable. You're always seeing them, you're seeing them get caught up with slime, or you're getting them caught up with getting them all poured up with shit and stuff. That was, or manure, so to speak. That was like,
Vince loves his toilet humor.
yeah, that was okay. But
Hey, QS, real quick. Sorry to interrupt, but
Absolutely.
I have to say, we have to remember also, if it wasn't for the McMahons and the Spirit Squad, DX wouldn't have got back together.
they wouldn't have. And
I can watch that now and still get chills.
And it's good that you actually brought that back, because it's like originally, I know like there was definitely a moment when the Spirit Squad had, they were beating the crap out of Shawn, and they had shattered his knee and everything, shattered his knee kayfabe, and you're thinking he's done. And I think at the time, Triple H, he was still somewhat of a heel. He was just more or less Triple H was still like the ass kicker. And I guess Triple H also was like, I guess Vince had wanted like Triple H to like, come and finish the job, finish off Shawn. And, Triple H, he did have the sledgehammer, but Kenny was the one that took the sledgehammer from him, snatched it from Triple H. And they were going to go beat the crap out of Shawn even more. And that pissed off Triple H, because it's like, you shouldn't even, like, don't touch my sledgehammer. You don't touch the game sledgehammer. That's his equalizer. You never touch it but him. So he went, so that caused him to go and beat
That's with a black man's radio.
Doing that. But then even after, I guess that caused to a sequence of, Spirit Squad was beating the crap out of Triple H, and they were going to beat the living shit out of him. They were about to jump him, beat him up,
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that caused the reunite. That caused the whole entire reuniting. Everybody reunited. You got to see
Kicked them out
DX.
the
Yep, you got to see that.
gorilla. Yep.
But then what just made it annoying? I guess what made it annoying after is even after the Spirit Squad clearly lost their steam in this whole feud with DX, it was over. And they feuded and defended. They did have successful title defenses. They defended it against Eugene. I believe they defended it against I'm not sure if it was Snitsky and
Might have been Viscera or something, like one of those makeshift tag teams they threw together.
They
Eugene.
defended it against Charlie Horse. It was against Charlie Horse and Viscera. They defended it against those two. I just forgot who was Eugene's partner, and I forgot who Snitsky's partner was. But they defended it against them as well. And even after that, they just went on a whole entire losing streak. And you see the so-called we all thought the future of the Spirit Squad was Kenny Dykstra.
Kenny Dykstra,
yeah. and the reason why, and I'm gonna go on the reason why they say Kenny is the future was because not only was Kenny athletic, but it was the way Kenny probably had one of the best high leg drops that we had seen in a very long time. That leg drop was beautiful, and
gorgeous.
That leg drop was beautiful. The whole entire team special, horrible. I don't give a damn. Nobody's gonna convince me that five men are just literally grabbing you from all corners of your body, lifting you up in the air and just slamming you down. And that's what's just incapacitated.
In defense, think about it. You have five dudes grab you, throw you in the air, and pull you down with all of their might. That hurts. You gotta think about it from a science perspective.
It's like
that's a long drop.
It's like you're looking at it and you're like,
painful.
Really? Like I could have understood you guys you're holding him down and you guys let Kenny do the leg drop. Understandable. I get that. The whole lifting it up in the air and slamming it down, I'm like, all right, I guess. Cool. But even after he lost, after that, they kept losing. Kenny was tired. He was tired of it, tired of the losing streak. And then it's like they just broke up. Like they fizzled out. Some of them got shipped back to OVW. And of course, like after a while, they all started getting released. And I feel like that saving grace was if it wasn't for the Spirit Squad, for Nikki, we would have never got Dolph Ziggler. And now look at Dolph Ziggler today. He's still under contract. He's the only Spirit Squad member under contract, and is still.
By the way, hi, I'm Dolph Ziggler.
And people don't even remember that gimmick, like when he started off with that. Hi.
Oh my God.
I want to mention something. It's funny you mentioned Dolph Ziggler because he's been a part of some pretty bad gimmicks even before the Spirit Squad. This isn't my official pick for a bad gimmick, but Kerwin White was a pretty bad goddamn gimmick.
Oh my God.
That was mine.
That was Chavo Guerrero under Whiteface, pretty much. He dyed his hair blonde and gave him a golfer gimmick. And Dolph Ziggler was his caddy. That's why I wanted to mention that Dolph Ziggler was his caddy.
It just.
You know what? You're right. Just finish with the Spirit Squad real quick.
It's just a finish. Just to finish it off. It's like, I get it. The Spirit Squad, they just had to work with what they got. It was just as a ridiculous gimmick just to see this ridiculous group was actually doing damage on the roster somewhat with just the asinine, with such asinine types of shenanigans. I just couldn't understand, couldn't believe it.
And doing damage to legitimate superstars.
Yeah,
literally, and it's just crazy that out of that whole group, we all thought it was going to be Kenny Dykstra that would be where Dolph Ziggler is today. It turns out it actually was Dolph. Like Dolph ended up being the breakout star. He ended up being he took whatever was given to him and he just turned it around and just made it what it is. And now he's still one of the most solid workers that we see to this day. So I mean that's my pick for one of the worst gimmicks. We gotta go. If you gotta think of a group, you gotta think about the Spirit Squad. You have to.
Agreed. Agreed. So you know what? Let's see if we can reverse it really quick. Um, Now we're gonna talk about so QS and Stretch are gonna talk about some of their most loved gimmicks, and then Striker and myself are gonna do some of the gimmicks we aren't too fond about. Now Striker, before you go, I just want to say real quick, Stretch, I'm not your friend right now because he said Kerwin, and that's what I was gonna go with.
Well, I did the
And I
lead in for you. You're
and I
fine. Go
and I
ahead.
can and I can definitely like go into detail. But now I feel like I have to find somebody else. But as that happens,
We don't do this. We don't tell each other what we're going to talk about beforehand, folks. So this
no,
is done on the fly for the most part.
We're just doing this on the
this is
fly.
pretty much like how it is under in the ring. Thanks, guys. Um, uh,
Yep.
Always
Striker,
account for variable change.
yeah, exactly. Striker, let's go with your negative, sir.
And now we're gonna go left field with the negative. Oh man. See, I wasn't too prepared for a negative because I really ignored the gimmicks that I hate. I don't really like try to give them too much energy. But let me see if I could think of one off top. Uh, Adam Rose. Adam Rose pissed me.
I was thinking
Adam
about that.
Rose.
That was.
Adam Rose pissed me off because
Uh,
as long as Christian, wait, hello, just making
Yeah,
sure,
we
just
can
making
hear
sure.
you.
Okay, so I said as long as Christian and Brandon have known me, especially when NXT was around, I originally loved the crap out of Leo Kruger. I always wanted Leo Kruger to be the one that got called up to the main roster. I thought that gimmick and his build, especially his physical build at that time, was amazing. He could have been a star under that character. But then he leaves. I think he left after an injury. If not, they were just repackaging him.
They just repackaged them.
Yeah, so he disappears now, and I'm wondering like, what the hell's going on with this guy? Because I love the hell out of Leo Kruger. He had great matches in NXT. Then we get a lollipop licking, super effeminate, and there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody has something that they like. There's something for everybody in wrestling.
The
But
Listen,
Russell
Striker.
Brand
classic.
ripoff.
Listen, Striker. Don't be a lemon. Don't be a lemon.
Do
Don't
not
be
be
a
a lemon.
Look,
Be
Be
a
a rose.
rosebud.
look,
Be a-
look. I couldn't help but smile at that one. But
ironic. He's wearing yellow.
right, imagine I'm supposed to be the lemon today. It just works out. But I will say I hated the gimmick because I love Leo Kruger, but it was just so silly. You you kind of could put it against a good gimmick like Orange Cassidy, where you had to piss the dude off to actually make him want to do some work. He was very laid back. He always wanted to party. He was always licking a lollipop and like swinging it in your face, or trying to do some type of advance to you with the lollipop. And it just creeped me out in the beginning, but you just want to see the guy win. So when he goes to the main roster and you're seeing people like Becky Lynch on the Rosebuds line, you're seeing Braun Strowman, you're seeing
Oh
Alexa
man,
Bliss, you're seeing all of these people.
Zelina Vega was a rosebud.
She was a rosebud.
Like
There's
you're
so
looking at
many.
all these serious characters, and you're seeing what the Rosebud line did for them, and it's like, I can't be mad at it, but the character, why? They even tried to make him, be evil and serious, but it just didn't work.
Too late.
You could have kept him as Leo Kruger. You could have had him be face or heel. It didn't matter which one, and he perfectly got over. So that's one of my very disgusted, disliked gimmicks of all time.
Yeah, man. Now listen, I'm not gonna front. I was, ladies and gentlemen, I currently live in New Jersey, so you have to excuse me when I state this, but I was working at the Wax Museum. These guys know I was outside. When I tell you I was walking around like, like I'm not gonna front. I was I was a fan, and I don't know why.
I couldn't
I
stand
don't know why,
Random Rose.
but
I'm with Troy. I couldn't stand him.
I will say I do agree with the fact that Leo Kruger had that whole like craven, and I'm a big Spider-Man fan. If y'all know me, Spider-Man is my favorite superhero. That's like you can't tell me anything different that anybody's better, regardless. He had that Craven the Hunter vibe, and that's what made Leo Kruger so amazing. Um, so you're right though. Once they switched it to the Rosebuds, it was like, what happened to Leo Kruger? Like he was, and he was killing it in NXT. And this was NXT
he
from its Seth
he
Rollins was
was it,
champion days and Big E was champion. It was just, it was disappointing when he came back, but he tried to make the most of it. You know.
Look, I was a
to
fan.
even add on to that. Are y'all hearing? I don't know. Okay, okay. Let's make
Yeah,
sure
you
you're
Sure.
got
here.
you. You're good.
Yeah, yeah. So, no, the music was fun. So the music was fun. The Rosebud line was okay. It helped with his gimmick a bit too. But to come from Leo Kruger, which was basically red hot at the time. Like when I say, he's having matches with championship matches, he having tag matches. Like I think he had a tag match. I think it was with Connor, if I remember correctly. I don't
Hmm.
remember who. Yeah, I think it was him and Connor against. I forgot who the opponents was, but I know around the time Big E was champion, like he was red hot at the time. Like it's crazy to me that you switch from that type of character and you're thinking it's going to be too creepy or it's going to be too scary to bring to the main roster, so you switch him to this oaf pretty much, and it just kills me. Like you see Bray Wyatt, we spoke about Bray Wyatt earlier, like you see Bray Wyatt with the very creepy, very ominous feeling to his character. Kruger was perfect. You bring him to the main roster, you could even done like a Crocodile Dundee type of thing where he's like in the backstage hunting, hunting down these wrestlers, hunting down different types of prey. But you switch him to a drunkard party guy, it just doesn't work out for me. It doesn't work out for me at all.
So on that note, we're gonna jump back to QS. Your Storm. Who's let's do a positive one. Who do you like, sir?
Okay, positive. It's kind of hard because everybody knows I usually am like I come in with the negatives like it's just like hot fire. Positives, the
Super
positive.
hot fire.
Is it the Undertaker?
No, it's not because that's way too hard.
Too easy.
That
I
is
thought you were going with that one myself.
Too
I was like,
easy.
just get it out of your system.
way, way,
That's
way.
why I didn't go with Rock.
I would have to say a positive gimmick that that I really was that shockingly that I was a fan of and I liked. It's about two. It's a little separate. Being at the time that I guess this gimmick where it just first started, especially when ECW was just coming back, when ECW was coming back into the zenith. We still was kind of in a ruthless aggression era, and this is around where it wasn't the women's revolution. It was also it was actually the divas. This is a time where we still had divas. I was a fan. I was a fan of the gimmick. I was a fan of Kelly Kelly.
Extreme expose?
Okay.
The
Not
hill
even
you're
mad at
dying
that.
on?
I was misogyny aside. I was I would that was a I felt like that went with it did go with with ECW. Extreme expose went with it because it was ECW was always labeled as a promotion that was raunchy, extreme, over the top, extremely, and it's just like whoa, and it's just like okay. And this was something that I knew growing up when I was watching ECW. You wasn't seeing that. You wasn't seeing like the whole burlesque type of thing or like so-called stripper aspect. And then like sidebar. I'm always like I'm a proud defender of strip culture and strippers and all
I'm
that.
sorry. Did you just say misogyny aside?
Yeah, because a lot of people are gonna like think because this is a different
stripping
whole
woman gimmick,
whole different
True.
time
Very
because
true.
you can't use the extreme expose gimmick now. You can't. It's just
No.
because they're gonna harp
Oh,
that.
it's not gonna work.
No.
So that's why I had to put that aside. Like I had to put that disclaimer out there. But then I also found it funny with the extreme expose.
Of all the gimmicks you could pick. I'm just shocked.
Very.
I mean, man of surprises. But what made it funny with that extreme expose?
Put him on the
How do you
spot,
pick
man.
the Shockmaster and say that was good?
What made it funny was I think at the time, that was supposed to be her boyfriend, Mike Knox. What made it funny is Mike Knox just always came out of nowhere. Where you're thinking that, all right, it's extreme expose. Everybody's excited. Everybody's thinking, all right, cool. So Kelly's really about to do this. It's about to go all the way. And here comes Mike coming out of nowhere, covers it up, sport. Everybody boos Mike. They boo Mike and they love Kelly even more. Like that's what I love. What I loved about that gimmick is like that gimmick reminded me about Sable, Mark Mero.
And Mark Mero. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I liked about it more. That's why I liked that gimmick. I was like, oh look, it's like not a recycle, but another rendition of it. It literally was like we all hated. We started to hate Mark Mero more, even though Mark Mero was the better wrestler. He was the guy. He could have been the guy, but we all like Sable more because it's like, because they're looking at Sable, they're looking at the woman more. Man's getting jealous. And it's at the same time, I get it, at the time, Mike Knox, he's supposed to be her boyfriend. He wasn't want his girl doing this. Well, that's her job. She's supposed to do that. So it just made it funny. It made it funny to see that. That's just one gimmick that I like. That's a side gimmick. But if I had to really pick another gimmick that I always found enjoyable to laugh at, or always like I could always expect a good match and I don't mind watching them, it's definitely the Three Faces of Foley. It's definitely Mankind. Like, all jokes aside, yes, I will always go. I don't mind, especially Cactus Jack. One thing about with Mick Foley, especially when I liked his different sides. When it was Cactus Jack, he was always Cactus Jack before, especially when he was in ECW and stuff. You always saw Hardcore was Mick's middle name, the King of Hardcore. It just made sense. Whereas, and then you had a hilarious, you had the humorous side with Dude Love. Humorous side with Dude Love, the freaking hippie that just comes out of nowhere. He loves everybody. He wants to hug everyone. He wants to dance. Can't dance for shit, but it doesn't matter because it's Dude Love. We're just over here, just like, yeah, let's go, Mick. We know it's Mick, but we're just like, yo, fuck it. He made it work. It's only you have to enjoy seeing somebody dressed in a tie-dye shirt, tie-dye bandana with shades on, with blue leggings, looking like they just came from Woodstock. You have to just give them a pass. Be like, you know what? That's fine. That's a good gift. But then it's like,
I'm laughing because Austin made that character. Austin said those questions during that tag team match. He made that character.
Like, it's like, wow. And then it's like, you finish it off with his third face, of course, that we all know, Mankind. Of course, Mankind being like, he's like this loon that's always in the basement. He's always rocking back and forth. One minute he's like playing with rats. Next minute he's coming out and doing a mandible claw on somebody, or he's, as usual, before he was almost just as big of a threat when he was feuding with The Undertaker or when he was feuding with Shawn Michaels. It's like, man, people don't realize, like, Mankind back in the day, before he was like started to be looked at as a joke, back in the day, Mankind was literally vicious. He was vicious, and that's what made the gimmick so beloved. It's just like, wow, you really never would have thought that this guy who just went and just put on like a leather face mask, so to speak, just put on a leather face mask, made this, like, he was just as much as a great face, but he was also an excellent heel. He was an excellent heel, and it's just like the promos were downright creepy and almost like, whoa, like, what's wrong with him? Like, you really didn't know. You was like, yo, what's wrong with Mick? But then it's like, it was also good for Mick he was able to switch everything around. He knew when he wanted to be Cactus Jack. He knew when to bring out Cactus. Even further down in his career, he'll bring back Dude Love every now and then. He really wasn't anymore. And usually then he would bring, but he was usually just.
I'm sorry to cut you off, too, but real quick, even when I think one of the best moments also, specifically Mankind, was when he did that team up with oh my God, I just blank out. That is horrible. Barbara. I think that whole situation with against the Undertaker was, and not just because that's your favorite. I'm trying to, I'm not trying to
No,
get
it's
over,
cool. But that
but it really was like such a, you were like, what? You know what I mean? And it just excelled him even further.
I mean that also shows that Paul Bear is clearly not loyal. Never
Oh
has been.
man,
Because how many times has Paul Bear has been betraying his kids? It just doesn't make any sense. But overall, I think what made it beautiful is that even though Mick had these three different faces, he was still able to like just be him. And I guess it'd be as a fusion. He's a like as Mick Foley himself. He's supposed to be like him just being Mick Foley is supposed to be like this fusion of all his characters that he made. And it was sometimes where you actually saw him wrestle as just Mick Foley.
yep,
Like, don't get me wrong, like it was amazing to see him wrestle as Cactus Jack. It was amazing to see him wrestle as Mankind. Well, to see him get his ass kicked as Mankind. It was like that's what made it even crazier. Like, even though like Cactus Jack is supposed to be deemed as this hardcore legend, Mankind was actually the one getting his ass kicked the majority of the time, actually worse than Cactus Jack ever did. Like, Mankind is the one that got thrown off a cell. Mankind is the one that got beat up in a fucking empty arena, and got Mankind was the one that got his head bashed in by The Rock multiple fucking times, and lost in the I Quit match. Like, it was Mankind that was getting his ass whipped. So I don't even. So that's why it was just like, when you talk about like hardcore legend, it's like it makes it go. That has to be like another discussion. Can you really give it to Cactus Jack, or would you rather just give it to Mankind? Because Mankind really was taking a lot of it.
yeah.
But I say those are my. I would say for a positive gimmick, on a funny note, I say it's Kelly Kelly. But on a serious note, I would say it's obviously it's Mankind.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. So I guess it's me. Stretch effed it up for me. I was really gonna go with Kerwin White because that you're gonna tell me a Mexican that Chavo is Mexican.
You know the funniest part of
Is
Kerwin?
right. Like, come on.
The funniest part of Kerwin White
2006? Like, come on. Like, I can't.
The funniest part of Kerwin White was he wasn't even like embracing like upper class America. He was proud to be a part of middle class America. Like,
Right.
so fucking dumb. Like,
And it wasn't, and the crazy part of that switch was like, Eddie, rest his soul, one of the greatest wrestlers ever, honestly, came out with the lowrider. So you have him change the Kerwin and come out with the golf. Like,
to have a Guerrero be anything else other than a Guerrero is blasphemous. Like,
yeah.
oh, that is because there's such there's such a family that has such a steep and respected wrestling history all over the world. To see them whitewash Chavo Guerrero and his catchphrase was fucking terrible too. Don't even get me started. If it's not right, if it's not all right, I'm like, this is.
He came out in 2020. Imagine a fan base. But anywho's, we'll get off that topic. Honestly, I was really trying to think of. There's really too many, and it's so difficult. And I can literally just name 10 off the top of my head.
I could give you one I think you can elaborate on. I'm not going to say what it is. I'm just going to make a face.
Come on, man. Come on. You can't do that. You can't do that.
You gotta
go with
that. That's it. Like, go with it.
You can't do that. That man is
not gonna
beyond
lie,
evolved right now.
He is, but it still was a bad
Beyond
gimmick.
evolved.
It's a horrible gimmick.
And then when the bell rang, I can't. Sir, I'm sorry. I'm not going that route.
I'm just trying to help.
I'm so happy he is where he is right now.
I am too.
To Doc Gallows.
Still was a bad gimmick. I'm happy. I'm happy as shit where he is now. It still was a bad.
Big LG, we're
Get it,
sorry.
get it,
We're not gonna speak about
get
it.
it.
We
It's a
promise.
bad gimmick. He'll say it himself. It's a
No,
bad gimmick.
no,
Act like
I
I'm
That's
picking
can't
on
do
Luke Gallows. He's
it.
10 times bigger than me.
that's
What
bogus.
I'm going to go with. Oh man, this is so like upsetting. What I'm going to go with. God, there's so many. It's so difficult. I hate this. I hate going negative. F it, I'm doing it.
Ain't nobody told you
I hate
switch.
it. I
Ain't
hate it.
nobody
I
told you
hate it.
switch.
I hate Del Rio. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I
He
hate it. I
just
hate
goes
it.
as default.
I'm going with the default. Because there's so like I literally have so many. There's Glacier, fake Sub Zero.
Oh
There's
yeah,
Three
that's
King, fake ass boy band. There's Snitsky. Why did he even exist with his nasty ass teeth? There's there's literally so many. Honestly, I can even go with Vicky Guerrero because I hated her gimmick so much. And I love you, Vicky. I'm not talking shit about you yourself. You are a wonderful person, but
any any man who can punt a baby doll on one try into a crowd has my respect. That was the ultimate one take Terry moment. God bless him for that.
If
He literally
if
threw
he
it,
could
punted
We
it right, and
can't
it
do
went
that.
into the
you
audience.
would have
if
missed
he
that.
We
It would have
cannot
been
do
Oh,
that.
funny.
Climax.
if he could
he
do
would have
that
whiffed.
if he could do that to a fake baby, he could do it to a real baby. I don't
Oh
trust that
God!
Oh
man
well, he
anywhere in my
wouldn't.
life.
WWE caught him
Wouldn't
out.
do it to a real baby, but
Wait, hold on, time out. I'm the only dad here. Y'all better cut it out.
I
Lord,
specifically said doll.
oh,
No,
I just want that to be. I want that to be clear.
I
no.
definitely,
A baby
I definitely
doll.
said fake baby, so it's okay. I said if he could do it to a fake baby, who the hell knows if he would do it to a real baby?
My
Snitsky
God.
was a horrible character.
he was.
Horrible.
It's not my
Damn, y'all made me
fault.
forget what I just
It's
went with.
not my fault.
Y'all literally just made me forget what I went with. Who would I go with? Vicky, right? Um,
You did go with Vicky, yes.
yeah, I'm going with Vicky. I'm sorry. I just think I can elaborate on so many people right now.
She was doing her job.
No. I'm not knocking her as a person.
Hmm.
I'm just saying the gimmick itself was just like I didn't want to see her as general manager. I didn't want to see her come out every week, excuse me, all over as loud as possible. I didn't want to see her with Edge. I didn't want to see her with Big Show. I didn't want to see her with Dolph Ziggler. I just didn't want to see it. And I think that's the problem where it lies. Now, am I happy that she's currently with Nia Jax? Absolutely.
Nyla Rose.
Nyla Rose, excuse me. You're right. I'm so sorry about that. Yeah. Am I
Excuse
happy
me.
she's with Nyla Rose? Right. Seriously. Um, am I happy? Yes, absolutely. She's in a different company. They're not gonna, you know what I mean? But I think for what it was, like, yes, the Guerrero name lived on, and I'm cool with that. But I think they went about it so many different directions when it came to her. Um, that it was so convoluted, and you was just like Vicky. I'm pretty sure Vicky Guerrero essentially was not a like I mean, like, how else can you say it? You know what I mean? And I'm truly not trying to be rude about it, but and I know they kind of did the same thing with AJ Lee, and I really wasn't a fan of that either. But
Mhm.
we're not talking about AJ, we're talking about Vicky. Um, her whole cougar gimmick, and I can't elaborate on so many different levels because there was so many different things that happened. But I'm just gonna keep this short and sweet. I don't like it. I didn't like it. I refuse to like it. Vicky Guerrero, you are still an inspiration for keeping the Guerrero legacy. And I appreciate everything you've done and everything that you will continue to do. But when it comes to that gimmick, I was not a fan. Um, and I will say 3 count was trash. And 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 really, I mean, other than going with the obvious, which would be like Shockmaster and a gobbledygooker and all this other stuff. Glacier, dude, you are not Sub-Zero. Cut that out. You was not ripping spines out of people's asses. That just wasn't what it was. All right, and you come out with the whole snowflakes. Remember Thunder? I remember him coming out on Thunder with the
Laser light show.
snowflakes in the blue with the light.
Oh,
I'm
WCW.
done.
That was
No,
just
I try not to curse. I'm trying not to curse. I'm trying to make sure that kids can watch this, including my daughter. I'm done. Christian, Sir, Stretch Armstrong, please, just just go with a positive reply.
So there are so many good gimmicks that I could think of off the top of my head. I'll go with two that I was going to pick but didn't. Number one, I was thinking about picking the Mountie. That's one of my favorite gimmicks, just because of.
Are you serious?
Absolutely, I absolutely love the Mountie. I thought the Mountie was so obnoxious and so over the top. I thought the Mountie was great. I loved the Mountie.
That was my worst gimmick honorary mention.
Are you serious? Really? I thought the
Hated.
Mountie was great. The Mountie was so obnoxious and so easy to hate that I thought it was great. I loved the Mountie. And he had the shock stick and everything, the cattle prod. I thought it was great. I loved the Mountie. I would die on that hill. I absolutely love the Mountie. And he sung.
We all know you loved when Brazzico came out.
His own theme music. How could you not hate the Mountie? He was a heat magnet. He sung his own freaking music and it was terrible. It was great. I got three now because I got another one that I thought of. But in honorary of Tax Day, I thought IRS was a very good gimmick. I absolutely love IRS. I think that was a good gimmick because who doesn't hate the IRS? You know.
I mean, even the $1 Million Man himself.
Oh yeah, pairing him with the $1 Million Man, that was brilliant on their part. You know, the guy that makes all the money and Irwin knows how to keep it. So I think that was a brilliant pairing.
Yep.
The third gimmick that I'm not picking this gimmick, but I think it should be mentioned because I thought it was a very smart gimmick given the time period of the Attitude Era. The right to censor. I got it. I thought the right to censor was such a smart gimmick because in this era in which TNA sells and sex sells, these are guys trying to censor everybody, and they took guys that had controversial gimmicks and changed them to like the boring like. You know, PTA like conservatives, uber conservative stuff. Like, you know, they changed Val Venus, who was a porn star, and the Godfather was a pimp, to the Good Father. Like
the Good Father.
not the Good Father. He's great. I'm talking about the other dude.
Oh yeah. He who shall not be named.
They had changed Ivory too, right? It was Ivory that they changed.
Not Ivory. Yeah.
Ivory was a part of it too, and Bull Buchanan as well. But I thought that was a good gimmick. The gimmick that I want to talk about. Is about a performer that's still going strong today and still churning out some of the best matches of his career to this very time period. Is Dustin Rhodes' Goldust. I think Goldust is one of the greatest gimmicks of all time, and I think Dustin Rhodes is one of the most underrated performers in the wrestling business of all time. He does not. He is. When I think of people who are world champion material who's never won a world championship in a federation, Dustin Rhodes is near the top of that list, if not at the very top, for how versatile he is. Goldust, one of the greatest characters I've ever seen in my life, and I like the fact, like, the early Goldust. I'm not talking about, like, the Goldust that was with, like, R-Truth and stuff like that, even though he had a great comedy run with Booker T. I think that's obviously something worth being mentioned and stuff, like how he kept evolving the character. But when he first started out, like, he was like this movie buff that would like talk about his promos and like incorporate like stuff from movies in it. He would constantly do movie quotes.
He was androgynous. Yeah,
he was androgynous. And that's what I was getting at. Like, they evolved his character to the point where he was like using that androgynous nature and using at the time, which largely looking back at it is I wouldn't say it's terrible, but very like, you know, you really can't put that stuff on TV because it was essentially like the homophobic fears of most men against Razor Ramon, who was like oozing machismo. He's like this real manly man. Like, you know, he's used all those mind games. He was essentially stalking Razor Ramon. And like the first attempts at affection towards Razor Ramon, he gave him a gold letter at In Your House, and like some of the stuff that was in the letter, Razor said like it's read it and was like, I can't say that because it's a family show. Like some of the things in the letter, they said like he thinks Razor is so hot, so nice looking. They never really go into detail of what the letter said, and I thought that was smart because it kept you guessing. Then he would send like Razor flowers, but the thing that topped it off the most, and I'll never forget this as a kid. It was a match on Superstars. Goldust had just beat Barry Horowitz, and at the end of the match, Goldust is like preening toward the camera, and he's like taking off like his bodysuit or whatever have you, and he had Razor's name tattooed with like a glitter heart with Razor in the middle of it. And Razor absolutely lost it and went crazy. But long story short, Goldust beats Razor Ramon at the '96 Rumble. It goes on to become a multi-time Intercontinental Champion. He has a short spell like in WCW, comes back to the Federation, and they team him with Booker T. He has an amazing run with Booker T. It's like some of the funniest skits I've ever seen. Like they had him like dress up as like Ben Franklin, and he dressed up as like Darth Vader. He imitated The Rock, like he had his hair like painted black and like the eyebrow, but he still has on like the bodysuit and the shirt and the gold paint.
Like, the promo with him and Booker T and The Rock was hysterical.
Oh yeah, yes, it's absolutely hysterical. So my favorite one is where he's in 7-Eleven and he's got on like the Latrell Sprewell jersey and the hat, and it's like Goldust sneaks up behind him and says, "Hey man, you in line?" And he turns around and it's like, "Well, what are you doing here?" It's like, "I had to wear this elaborate disguise. I followed you from where you were at in the parking lot to here so you wouldn't find me." And he's got on his bodysuit and the paint. All he has on is a visor and his Latrell Sprewell jersey. He's in his wrestling gear. He's in his boots and in paint and everything. And it's absolutely hilarious.
By the way, wait, I must add.
Away with everything, like.
Yeah, I mean, I must add. I don't know if this started it, but I feel like now historians of the game. If I'm wrong, please comment below, please. But did Goldust start the whole "you sick freak" situation?
No, that was The Rock. The Rock did that.
No, I know, but I'm saying, like, was that because of Goldust?
I don't think it was because of him. I think he started doing that before him. I know he did it to Vince once or twice.
Right.
Before that.
Yeah,
he did do it to Vince once or twice.
I think it was Coachman. I think it was Coachman.
Either way, amazing.
On another note, I would suggest
Dancing with Charleston was amazing.
But when it comes to Goldust, for everybody else, when you go back and watch this, I would suggest you guys, if you haven't, just go look up all of Goldust's old promos, especially when he was linked up with Marlena. Like, look up those promos. Those are, I'm sorry, like when it comes to like dropping a promo or just getting anything set ready for a match, that's what like Stretch is talking about. Like that was like, or like you were so creeped out, but at the same time you were intrigued because like, wow, like this is he was so different from everything that you had seen before that time period and for the time period is. And it's like, man, this guy, he was literally doing it in front of the Hollywood. Like literally, you see him like literally doing a promo in front of the Hollywood sign, or he'll give like a quote from an old classic movie pastime. And it's like you really had to like sit there. You're like really trying to pay attention. You're like, wow, like this is crazy. Like he's really good. But but Goldust is definitely one of those gimmicks that does not get enough love. He doesn't get enough praise, but he's definitely one of the most beloved and underrated workers that we have still to this business today. And you just got to.
It's funny from where he came from before he was Goldust, because he made a name for himself in WCW. He's the son of Dusty Rhodes. He was a natural Dustin Rhodes.
Right.
And he established himself. He was a top star in WCW, so it seems like the natural thing to do, no pun intended.
Was he a U.S. champion?
Yes, he was. He was a U.S. champion. He was a U.S. champion there. He made an established name for himself, so it seemed like the smart thing to do would be when he gets to the WWF, just bill him as Dusty Rhodes' son, to keep him as Dustin Rhodes. People knew who he was, but for him to completely change like that and to be more known to me as Goldust rather than the son of Dusty Rhodes, which I'm sure is a distinction he's incredibly proud of. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that that's a horrible thing, but It's like when he's
Right
not
guard.
wearing, yeah, he was able to step out of that shadow, and it's like when he's not wearing that paint, it's like he's naked. You
Yeah,
know,
Right.
like it's a completely different human being when he's not wearing that paint. And
that's why it's so weird when it's like to see him in AEW. Like, just I mean, he wears like half the paint. He wears it half the paint. It's like weird because it's just like, oh man, like it's you still remember. It's like no matter what, you're just always gonna remember him as Goldust. Like I
I
Well,
still,
got also
well, I
before I
think
don't mean to cut you off, I got to
no,
mention
no,
the
go
run
ahead.
that he had, the tag team run he had with Cody
I was
in
about to say that.
WWE,
Like when he ran
because he
into you,
reinvented himself, he
yeah,
reinvented his wrestling style, and he came back better than ever.
I,
That's one of the best
I must
comebacks I've
say,
ever seen.
me and
I
Stretch are
must
here because
also
I was
say,
about to
I
bring that
think,
up. I was about to bring it up. All right.
yeah, I was too actually. I had the same. See, that's when. See, this is why we work together.
Yeah.
But right, you got to throw it up. But I must say, I think, especially now with AEW, he's truly making the best out of who he, everything of who he was in the past and who he is now, and the
Right.
experience and just his true passion for the business. And the half and you brought up the half face paint, and it truly is like Dustin and Gold Dust, but it's still this new aspect of who he is as a person, who he's grown into, and who he will continue to become. Because I'm pretty sure he has maybe a couple more years on him. Um, but no, absolutely, that's such a great pick. Stretch. Goldust might be, and truly, we didn't mention Taker because of obvious reasons, but Taker more than likely is the greatest gimmick of all time. Goldust is by far. Um, so real quick, I just want to do either positive or negative. We don't necessarily have to go into a description. I just wanna go really quick and see if there was anybody that we might have thought of while we were talking about everything. And just a quick mention and maybe a very, 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 very short description. Striker, I'm gonna start with you, sir.
All right, so short and sweet, short and sweet. Bad News Barrett, absolutely love that gimmick. Absolutely. I wish I could have actually got the shirt out to actually wear it today. But the podium from being, from the Nexus, going to the core, going into the bare knuckle brawler or the underground brawler that he was, and then getting injured and then coming back. You're on injury, and everybody's wondering when you come back to the ring. Then you just show up on the podium, you're talking shit, and you're building your mic skills on top of that. But you're building your mic skills. You're ratting on people during their matches, in the middle of their promos, and you have such a catchphrase that everybody was saying it at the time. I'm afraid I've got some bad news, right? Everybody loved that gimmick. I love that gimmick so much that I bought the shirt and I actually ran with the shirt for a very long time. And I think that's a severely underrated gimmick. Even to when he became King Bad News or King Barrett at the time when he had one King of the Ring. Like, I think if that gimmick was to be on anybody else, I don't think they would have gave it as much love as Barrett did, for especially for the spot that he was in at that time.
Sure. Stretch, can you do another positive and negative real quick?
I can get to a positive and a negative. I'll keep it short and sweet. Negative, the Portuguese man of war, Aldo Montoya. Uh, this was an individual, PJ Polaco, who is known as Justin Credible. For those of you who don't know, debuted in the WWF around December of '94 wearing a yellow jockstrap on his head for a mask. Um, Shout out to Aldo, though, because I'm kind of rocking his hairstyle at one point. He did have dreads just like mine. But that is an absolute you can't beat that. After you, it's like once the commentators start making jockstrap jokes about the guy's mask, he's not coming back from that. A positive gimmick that I could think of, and I'll give you just because I don't want to be the guy that says everything that's old school. I'll give you a modern one and one that was recent. The new Daniel Bryan, I think, was a good gimmick. Where he was like the uber like environmentalist, and he was like I'm better than you because I'm a vegan, and you guys eat meat. How can you do that stuff? And like my title belt is not one made out of leather. He brought out the hemp WWE Championship, and people hated it. I thought that was so smart. I love that
I wanted
gimmick.
to smoke it. I wanted to smoke it.
The hemp WWE title and the fact that he became the uber environmentalist. I thought it was a point in time, especially because he came back from injury and it was so emotional and everything. I never thought they'd be able to turn him heel again, honestly, and he managed to do it just like that. So that's my positive and negative just as a sign off.
QS, what you got?
Unfortunately, well, my two negatives are actually quick, and I just have one positive. My two negatives, the names alone will just make y'all laugh. Papa Shango,
Yep.
What was the second one?
What was the last one?
Kamala.
Kamala?
Kamala.
I'm on the fence with Kamala.
No, enough said. That's just.
Kamala was big during the territory days. I'll give Kamala a pass. Shango was a bad gimmick, though. I will say that.
Shango was a horrible gimmick. if you know, you really know. But I'll say the positive gimmick, I'll just follow through for the modern era. While you went with the New Day and Bryan, I have to just go with the Monday Night Messiah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good gimmick.
You know, we were, a lot of us was not like, we didn't know what we was really expecting with this new version of Seth. We didn't know what we was expecting. We would call him, CrossFit Jesus, the CrossFit Jon Snow. He's just keep coming out with this the leather jacket with the fur coat on. It was weird, especially in the summertime. It didn't make any sense. But overall, like, you see how the character development is. You see, like, he really believes what he's doing is for the greater good of Monday Night Raw. Like, he believes it, and I think that's what makes the gimmick so great. Is that you really believe what you're doing is for the best, for the business. Like, you're doing this for the business. Like, you're doing it, it's for the greater good. Everything you did to Ray, like the whole thing with Ray with his eye, you feel like it's for the greater good. You're doing this, you're trying to save Raw. And with the feud with Drew, it's to save Raw. Like, you really feel that you are Jesus and you are coming back to save us all. Yeah. And it's just like, wow. It's like, I'm still waiting for the day. I hope he keeps this Monday Night Messiah gimmick going, because I wanted to go all the way to WrestleMania, and he's able to descend from the fucking heavens with a choir in the background with his music is playing. I'm waiting for that to happen. I need it to happen. And I just hope WWE listens to this, and they're like, you know what? Yeah, we're gonna get that. We're gonna give that to the Monday Night Messiah. Make him come down with.
It's gonna be Sean 2.0.
Like,
pretty much.
Except this time, you actually have a choir with you. You have a Kirk Franklin choir. They stomping, they're clapping and everything, and he's just descended from the heavens with the robe and all. It's pure white. It's gonna be beautiful. I just want them to do that just for that one spot. That's all. That's my positive.
So I'm gonna go with a negative and two positives. The negative will be 7 when Dustin started giving this whole fake Undertaker vibe. And
Uncle Fester in WCW.
Oh God.
So that, I mean, I really, if y'all haven't seen 7 in WCW, please watch that promo, because that's probably one of the most powerful promos in wrestling. When it comes to positives, there was quite a few. Something I really, really want to harp on would be, I'm sorry. I had 2 negatives and a positive. I just thought about that. And I know I'm going to get slack for this, and I really don't care. I hated the Ultimate Warrior. Hated it. Hated it with a passion. Because all the man did was run down to the ring.
Didn't deal or didn't hate him much, for sure.
And the man made no sense. I understand his energy was what's the word I'm looking for?
Ultimate.
The energy was crazy. So everybody loved the energy. But he didn't do anything. He came to the ring, he hit 3 moves, 4 moves. How people feel about Cena is how I feel about the Ultimate Warrior. He really didn't do much. He really didn't say anything. That's just me personally. And a positive. which might be super left field, but it did its job, is oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God.
Muhammad Hassan.
Oh God, why am I? Yes, yes, yes. Muhammad Hassan. He
That was
did
a good.
his job, and for what
Oh man.
it was at that
Oh man.
time, and the hate that that man got because
It
of
was
things like 9/11, you know,
They were thinking him
references
Bin Laden. That
to
was crazy.
they
It
were
was
they, yeah they were playing with fire with that one.
Yep.
yeah,
But you know what? He did what he had to do.
and it worked.
I watched
Yeah, and you know
some of
what?
his vignettes the other day, and like
Amazing.
I was shocked that he literally said like I think it was Allah Akbar or Inshallah like during the end of the
Oh my
promo. Like I
God.
was shocked it's
No.
that, and
No.
I say
What made it?
shocked. Mind you, I want this to be clear in case anybody's listening to this. I have no problem with Muslim
None
prayer being
whatsoever.
said like out loud in any way, shape, or form. I just found it
Mhm.
very shocking that they would go that far with a character.
Right.
You
Yeah.
But you
know,
know what? The thing about what made that character so good is that he was like, I'm an American citizen. I was born and raised, and y'all gonna hate me for something that I didn't do?
he wasn't lying.
That's what made
He
that.
wasn't lying.
And
Fine.
I had a friend in high school who literally wrote a letter in our newspaper who was Muslim, and of the you know, from it was very heartfelt. And when I watched Hassan, that's who I saw.
Right.
So I can't blame him for that. But I will say one more negative: Mr. America, dumb as shit.
Oh
That
man.
end of story. So thank you for listening. Thank you for following us. We really appreciate it. We're gonna switch it up. Striker, I want you to do your handle, sir. Tell them where they
Cool,
can find
cool,
you.
cool, 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 cool. As you can see, you can follow me
You
on
watching
Twitter, Striker
Community?
Dragoon. What happened?
You watching Community?
No, 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 no,
Oh,
no.
'cause- okay. People watch Community. You see why I said that.
um, holy
Striker
shit.
Dragoon.
My bad. Yes, follow me at Striker Dragoon on Twitter. You can follow me at Council of Commentary as well. We got the Twitter page. At CO Commentary. You can find us on the Council of Commentary IG as well. And
Don't forget your Twitch, sir.
the Twitch as well. Yes, follow us on Twitch as well at Council of Commentary, the Council of Commentary. And that's about it for me. Give me a second. I'll be right back.
Now you're good, sir. QS, please.
So as you know, as usual, for Twitter and Instagram, you can follow me right here, Forever Thiefin. Like I said, follow our Facebook page at the Council of Commentary. Like the group. Request an invite. We always accept everybody. Leave comments when you want. Any feedback or support is needed. As always, thank you so much for listening to us, taking this time, and just have a blessed night.
Stretch.
I'd like to echo the same sentiment as Brandon. Thank you for taking time out of your day just to listen to us expand about a topic that we all love that has all brought us together. You can find me, as you see, my handle is right there. Jadeo Sapio on Instagram. I'll be the guy that is fighting for social justice and drinking beer at the same time. That is not mutually exclusive for me. You can also find me in the Council of Commentary Facebook group, which we will talk about wrestling and other entertainment media such as movies and or comic books as well. That is Jadoris Sapio. Jadoresapio. I have to spell it every single show. That rhymed. I can do this all the time. Let me really rock one time. But in all seriousness, you can find us all in the Council of Commentary Facebook group. Please join. We are looking forward to talking wrestling with you guys. Please.
And sir, who are we sponsored by?
We are sponsored by. Give me a second, please.
Oh, he had to go get it.
Gotta go get it.
Oh
Pretty sure he
man.
has to go. Yeah. My
I
bad
gotta
for
wait till
anybody
you
who
come.
watches this video. I had to go kill a spider. I'm sorry.
Hey man, Spider-Man would be offended.
Oh man, don't say that for Mr. Marvel now. Like, she can't do that.
No, I'm pretty sure I killed a spider like earlier today.
Where
He really went to
where's
go get it. Well, as he
You want to
goes,
know
and
what
I'm
our
writing.
official, unofficial sponsor is for the day? Patron. Enough said.
And I am K Marvel. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Mr. Marvel 87. Thank you once again. Please like, share, and subscribe and comment and turn all the notifications on so you know what's going on. You know when we release new episodes. And once again, as I said in the last episode, we have a ton of things coming up. We have interviews. We have something a little special. I don't really want to ruin it yet. I'm gonna let my man Stretch do that when y'all follow the page. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. Or you can find us on YouTube, which this is on. And yes, we will be releasing on Apple Music. I've got everything else on all our anywhere you can find podcasts sooner than later. We're just waiting on a couple things, just so y'all know. But once again, thank you. We love you. We appreciate you, and continue to follow us. This has been the Four Corners of Commentary. Thank you, and have a good night or day.
Yeah.